Well, hello there. This is Shane from Shane's Reviews. You may notice that things are a little askew for me. I'm trying to get you back up here where you belong. There you go. That's better. And it's been a morning for sure. Fifth time I've tried to record this. The sun I'm getting ready to shoot. And as odd as that sounds, yeah. 20 minutes I feel like I've wasted my life. I've been watching to see whenever the sun got out of the window enough that I could record on my way back, and I'm almost where I need to be. So, there is that. Anyhow, it is April the 27th, I believe, and I started trying this at 8:40, but now it is 9 o'clock. Yeah. Anyway, we're just going to have to deal with the sun, put a filter on it or something. I don't know. Anyway, today we're going to be talking about H.G. Wells, and I found a collection of the stories from H.G. Wells, so it has War of the Worlds is the first one, and that's what we're going to talk about. Mr. Editor of the day, please, if you would, put a nice little thing on the screen about who it was that did the narrations, if you wouldn't mind, please, sir. Awesome. Thank you for that. Now, for whatever reason, I don't know how it happened, but I ended up, I've got to have some hair. I'm hoping it doesn't get too loud, but anyway, I've never read the book before. I've watched every movie that's ever come out about H.G. Wells's War of the Worlds. I've seen some documents on it. I've seen documentaries. Speaking's easy. I'm flustered. Oh well, moving on. And I'd never actually listened or read to the book, which is a crime in my opinion. For somebody to go on about being somebody that likes sci-fi, to not have actually read that book, I think, is a crime. So if you haven't read it before, and you like sci-fi type stuff, then please do yourself the favor and get it, because it blew my mind. There's so much stuff that, you know, the typical trope. There's so much stuff that gets left out of the movie versus the book, right? Well, it's true. There's some of the things that I missed altogether because of only taking it in as a movie or something of the such is the time period this was actually wrote in. That's what got me. Yeah, that long ago. And so, we have a story where the primary mode of transportation is foot and horse. Yes, that's how long ago this was wrote. And to be completely fair about that, this is one of the better things of sci-fi that I've read. Here's why. There's a story. It gets from point A to point B. There's a whole lot of introspection. There's a whole lot of internal dialogue. There's a whole lot of just recounting what had happened, because that's what the story demands. But even with that, we got to remember how long ago that was wrote. And for him to hit so many things on the head, it was just amazing. Now, some of the stuff, I mean, you know, you got to remember the time frame. They were using the latest, greatest knowledge of mankind, and it was absolutely wrong. But as far as the way that the story was wrote and the story itself, and giving a feeling of something, an emotional response, this checks all the boxes. So maybe I won't go on about, you know, the whole story and this, that, and the other, but I can tell you that from my own personal experience on this, it was almost like walking into the Twilight Zone. Because I had my preconceived notions. Oh, I've seen this. I know this story. I've been down this road so many times. I'm not gonna. Yeah, I'll give it a try. Was the thought process, and I couldn't have been farther from wrong. I really couldn't have. I mean, there's so much stuff that was in the descriptions, and there wasn't more description than what needed to be. The description was there where it gave the idea of shapes or colors, possibly how things were, their different evolutionary traits versus our own. Just all these little fanciful type things. And so, even though H.G. Wells, rest in peace, sir, won't ever see this, you get the clap, sir. You have to forgive me. I've had my shots, and I'm on the back end of the second one, which for me, the first one was actually worse. But anyway, beyond that, second one, I'm still processing my body. But anyhow, let me get up to speed here, because the speed limit just changed. What are some of the things in here that are different from anything that you might know about War of the Worlds if you've actually not read the book like I had before? Well, the Martians, they never invented the will, apparently, according to this book. In order for them to do simple things, they had to use very complicated mechanisms and levers and slides and etc. for jointing and this, that, and the other. It was neat to listen to, because even though I thought that I knew the story, I did not know the story. The story has always been presented to me in a way of bang bang shoot 'em up. Pardon me. Bang bang shoot 'em up, end of the world, if we don't, but we can't, but our viruses win. And that's kind of true. They've kept to that sentiment throughout the years of bang bang shoot 'em up, but we end up trying to fight them with the latest greatest technology, and that's just not true to the spirit of the story, I don't think, because we need to realize that this was one of those things that if it had actually happened, would have been when there were still gas lamps. It would have been there when you would put a saddle on your horse or go tend the farm, or maybe you were going to the city because you needed to get something that you couldn't make or didn't have for yourself. We didn't have laser-guided anything. We didn't have airplanes. We didn't have, for the most part, I'm going to be up in front and honest. I'm in my vehicle, so I don't know the year that this was made. So I could be talking out of my rear end whenever I say this next statement. But I'm giving myself the opportunity to say I don't know what year it was done because I'm in my vehicle, so that I don't have to get a shoehorn to get my foot out of my mouth on this next one. But I don't even think they had electricity at that point, especially with everything else that was dated for life in the early 1900s, late 1800s. Yeah. Now, I'm pretty sure that with remembering the mentioning of wars, or a war, excuse me, that it was probably closer to 1910 to 1917. But still, things were a whole lot different then than they are now. But I digress. It was just kind of surprising is my point, that I never knew that, and that was the thing that I found the most magical about it, because then the story changed, and it became what it was actually supposed to be. Because I'd always assumed it was just survival of the fittest, man versus this, or persons versus this, or humankind versus this, and we just got lucky. And that's kind of the case, but the story really even though the main story arc gets you from that point to that point. For me, the thing that I enjoyed the most about it was instead the discovery that the main character was going through. I wonder what this is, the inborn curiosity of humanity trying to rationalize what was actually happening around. And yes, it is kind of that deep, because the guy ends up running into another survivor, and things are kind of weird. They get stuck in a place where they have to be absolutely silent, so they can't really talk. But it was just really well done whenever it came to the suspense. It was really well done whenever it came to the thriller aspect of do I get caught or don't get caught. The absolute wonderment and amazement in speech of the time period. Hang on it. Of which this was wrote. It just added so much to the story and to that experience that I really found myself getting into this more and more as the story went on. And then whenever I sensed it was coming to an end, I was a little bit upset. I was a little sad about it, because I really didn't want the story to end, because it was so well wrote. And I was really invested in the main character of this story altogether. Now, is it a long read? Surprisingly, a little bit longer than what I thought it would be. It wasn't long, but on the same token, there was a lot more description in this, but it was needed, because it wasn't like the grass was green and the reeds that were growing in the ditch happened to be cattails, and those cattails had a amberish yellow kind of a look to them. And next to that sat a fence that was old and rusty with vines of honeysuckle growing in. It wasn't that kind of description. Moreover, it was the description of what was happening around. So it fit into this quite well. But anyhow, so the long of it all, is it worth your time, efforts, and energies? Yes, it is. It really is. I mean, even if you don't like aliens, the way the book wraps up, it's really good. And there was some things about how the aliens got here versus the way that we would probably imagine they would do it now. That was not necessarily laughable, because it is actually very plausible to use things like rail mounts, which are highly inefficient, by the way, and that's the only reason why they're still science fiction. Beyond like the stress that is put on the unit whenever it actually fires, and then the extreme temperatures, and then the recoil. There's a lot of things against a railgun, but there's other people that shall not be named that had very large cannons as well that they were using during World War II. And there was one mega cannon that some idiot was going to build and actually prototyped, and I'm glad that never actually came to fruition, because that would have been disastrous for the Allies altogether. But I digress. Oops. Oh, that's bad. Eek. I'm gonna get back over, and that can just do what it needs to do. Yeah. But anyway, I would highly encourage getting it, because it's a good read. You'll probably like the way that it wraps up, because, in my opinion, it ended on a Quickie dink. So this is the most interesting comment that we found this week. Thank you so much for that. It is much appreciated. I do read the comments, and occasionally I get so backed up I have to make a video on it, as we all saw here just recently. I might do that again, because I kind of enjoyed it. It was almost therapeutic to just sit down and scroll through the things and address them. It was more personal to me, I think, than just shooting off a response with a keyboard. Because, I mean, I can do that, but I think that's going to be the question of the day, is would you guys rather me save up the comments and make a video, maybe every month, every other month, addressing all the comments? Or would you rather me just shoot one in the format of digital media, being a typed response? Yup. And if you have made it this far, my goodness, you are a special person. I love you for that. Never forget. And I'm not sure which one of the videos that I've just pulled in you will choose. But if you happen to choose one of those, I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.